Greetings, gamers! Welcome to part number 47 of my Let's Play Fire Emblem 10 Radiant Dawn. And in today's episode, I am going to be continuing with this wonderful chapter in, what is this, chapter 12? Yes, Just Cause. Even though it's not a just cause. Alright, Micaiah, go ahead and get your healing. Nice. Very nice. Incredible, even. I don't think any of these Pegasus Knights will fly over to attack you unless you go in their range. And I also don't think there are any more Pegasus Knights reinforcements, so once you remove the 3 that are over here, you don't really have to worry about them coming up and attacking Micaiah, for instance, because that's a very significant and not so great situation, potentially. Of course, I do have several units over here that could do the KOing. Nolan with his hand axe. Okay, he actually hit. That's super nice. You going to smite her with the Calibolg. I love that this game does have... See, it's not all about complaints. I don't like Ike and Micaiah. I just don't. And I don't like some of the story in Path of Radiance. I don't like some of the localization issues. And I don't like pretty much some of the overarching Part 4 story of Radiant Dawn. I will admit that. And some people don't necessarily like to hear quote-unquote complaints all the time. But I will say this. One of my favorite things about this game is something that it does better than most other games in the franchise. And that is that it gives you a lot, and I mean a lot of... Alright, do I even want to attack here? It gives you a lot of good old preferential weapons. He has max strength, and he's doing such little damage. So, a lot of preferential weapons is something that I love. Why do I love this? Well, Thracia. Thracia was the game in the series that introduced me to the idea of being able to get a hold of overpowered gear constantly. There are so many people who have such good preferential weapons in that game. Most of those preferential weapons are brave weapons. And a lot of people will say, well, that's overpowered. Not really, because the wonderful thing about that game is that so many enemies have brave weapons in that game. What's interesting is they don't have actual brave weapons, like brave lances, brave swords, brave axes, brave bows, but they have stuff like brave, oh good grief, stuff like master weapons. The master weapons in that game have the brave effect, but they're not actually called brave weapons. And I think the reason why they did that was because the good guys should be the only ones who have the brave weapons. The master weapons, those are for the bad guys who are evil and deleterious and no good. And that's why the master weapons are far and away weaker in a sense, but also better in another sense, because in capturing them, in taking them, you're not getting anything great. Because that game just, so many things are surrounding that idea of, well, you don't necessarily want to give the player too many overpowered tools, but you also want to give them some, especially because the enemy has a bunch on his own. So the fact of the matter is that Thracia does this the best. But, and I have to say a big but here, Radiant Dawn does this pretty well too, especially for a much newer game in the series. And she can't even fly there to do that. I was halfway thinking about getting Micaiah Ensos down here, because I don't think that Tironio is getting any kind of benefit from this. Yes, of course he's getting axe rank, but that actually just doesn't matter even remotely. So I think I'm gonna target all of these guys to go right there for the time being. And then I'm going to move you so that I can put Soth up here. I'm going to allow them to roam after I do all of this. So Micaiah needs experience points, something absolutely fierce. This is, in my humble opinion, a good idea, especially because what I'm going to do is put Soth next to next to Micaiah. She'll get the buffs from that, and then she and Soth can just deal with these enemies to the best of their abilities. I think I'm going to have Tyronio go back here and fend off of this wonderful force that's coming to attack me. I love the preferential weapons in this game, is what I was saying, especially the Dawn Brigade preferential weapons. They are the very thing that makes me say that the Dawn Brigade have a little bit, and I mean a little bit, it's not much, a little bit of a kind of like a giveaway, a give and take situation where it's like, yes, they may not be great, but they get great and cool weapons, and I use them to their fullest. I never just sit on them because they're not good endgame weapons necessarily, and especially compared to the endgame weapons that actually do exist. There are some times where I have used the Dawn Brigade, and pretty much nothing but the Dawn Brigade. Alright, that halfway puts a stinker on my plans here. And that's, you know, it's... Alright. I guess I'll put you right here. No, I'm actually going to put him right here. Let's equip the steel axe for the time being. So... Alright. Alright, I need to get these guys out of the way. They keep blocking. Oh, wait, why did I do that? Of course that wasn't going to work. I was thinking he had 28 health for some reason. I wasn't actually looking at his health. But I love stuff like the Caliburn. They're really cool. I've used the Dawn Brigade before in such a way that I have... direct roam. I have used like all of their preferential weapons in the end game, and I've found success with it, and you know, it's fun. They're definitely not nowhere near as good as the actual end game weapons that you do obtain. Yeah, this chapter is more or less like a battle of attrition. You're only supposed to KO 16, or not 16, I think it's either 30 or 40 total enemies. And afterwards, and this is either you or the allies doing this, afterwards the chapter is just over with. Yeah, he's going to keep getting healed up. Which is truly unfortunate, but there's kind of nothing I can do about that. Because of just the fact that he is in the way. I mean, I could keep attacking him for chip damage, but actually the fact of the matter is if I can heal with Physic, it's actually just a better idea in general. Which I will do. Come my turn, I'm going to heal whomever I possibly can in order to give Micaiah, you know, a bit of experience points. It would be nice if these halberdiers and soldiers over here all had ranged weapons so that they would attack, because then this would be so much easier. Kind of interesting that this wyvern is still alive. He might not continue to be so. Yeah, I didn't think so. Sniped right out of the sky. Yeah, one thing I have to say is that there's a lot of good things about Radiant Dawn. A lot of good things. A lot of changes. Not all of them are what I would have done. Like, for instance, I would rather stronger skills if it meant you only got one of them and you couldn't take them off of your units and pass them around. I would prefer that in a way, but sometimes it's fun. Like, for instance, Adept. Adept is not changed whatsoever in this game compared to most of the games in the series. So being able to swap that around is actually pretty darn cool, because it's just as strong as you would want it to be. Yeah, all of these guys have one range weapons. That's such a shame. Alright. Let me heal somebody up. Guessing you are the only one I can. And a good old steel axe for you. Yeah, so if the skills were less malleable and more about just having them per se, I think that would be better. Than if I might actually... You know what? Yeah, if the skills were better and less malleable, you couldn't take them off, but they were still as good as they are in Path of Radiance, if not better. I would have preferred that, but I will say this. With the ability to take them off and pass them around, it does give an interesting dynamic. This game is the only game in the franchise that does this, to my knowledge, at least with the kinds of skills that are in this game. So you have to applaud them for trying to think of something different and new. And that's okay. I prefer the skills to be more powerful in my own experience, because what that allows is, if there's a limited amount of them, you have to use them wisely. There is only one Wrath scroll in Thracia, for instance, and you absolutely cannot get another one of those scrolls. There are units that join your party who already have Wrath, but if you want to give Wrath to anybody in particular, you only get one shot of that per playthrough. Some people don't like this. I love this, because it means you have to make hard decisions. You have to use certain characters. You have to sort of change up how you're going to do things. In fact, one of the playthroughs I recently did off screen, just by myself, I really got this kick of, I really wanted to use a Sage with Wind. Didn't matter who. I ended up using Homer for this, and I gave him Vantage as well as Soul. And the reason I did that was because I didn't want to use a Nosferatu tank necessarily. And because he has such a high follow-up crit modifier, he didn't even need Wrath, because, well, Wrath doesn't go along with Vantage. You can't use those in conjunction in that game. And so what I did in that situation was I would basically throw him in a horde of enemies, and he would just Vantage and oftentimes crit, and many times he would proc Soul. It was basically like I had the same situation. Alright, Thani for you. Perfect. I say perfect in the sense that she got, a level, because I would much prefer her to have speed. Alright, can I do anything to get this guy out of the way? No. Absolutely not. I'm gonna play hot swap here for a moment. Alright, one thing I will do, though, get Toronio over here to do the defense, just in case. So another example of this is there's only 2 characters in Path of Radiance who join your party with either Advantage or Wrath, and that's Nephany and Mia. So there have been times where I've used both, and you get 1 scroll of each, and you can give each one the opposing scroll. So you can have 2 Vantage Wrath users. However, in Path of Radiance, you can only have 1 Vantage Wrath user other than them, in the sense that they are the only ones that come with that skill, but you only get 1 scroll of each Vantage and Wrath. If you want another unit to have that, you have to purposely go out of your way to give that unit such a skill combination. Vantage and Wrath is very powerful in Path of Radiance, one of its most powerful iterations in the entire series, which is kind of crazy to think about, because the fact of the matter is that you would think that Thracia or Genealogy or one of these other games would have the much more powerful combination of that. It's just not the case. The case is that you have only you have only so many things that the developers can do with set skills and so on and so forth in each game. So what happens is that some games have more powerful skills than not, and some games have better advantages than not. So a perfect example of this is Resolve. Resolve is one of the best skills in the entire franchise, and Path of Radiance does that best. Radiant Dawn certainly doesn't. Resolve in this game is okay. I mean, it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. Having 50% on your skill and speed when you're at half health is good. It's just not perfect. So I'm pretty sure that Vantage and Adept both are skill procs. They're either skill or speed procs. I'm not entirely sure on that. And if that's the case, if they're either, that means somebody like Toronio having Resolve is pretty much the perfect unit for it. The problem is that because he has so much defense and so much resistance, you're not really going to see him proc Resolve anytime soon. Potentially the next chapter that I play with the Dawn Brigade, but definitely not this chapter. Alright, so I'm just going to move on because there's not very much left. Hopefully, either this turn or next turn, my next turn particularly, the 5 remaining enemies can be defeated and I can move on to the next chapter. This chapter in particular takes forever because there are so many allied and enemy forces. One of the ways to speed this up is just have your allied forces halt, and it speeds it up greatly. If you do have them halt, the best way to actually go about this chapter is to go to the right and down that hill with all of your Dawn Brigade forces, rather than do what I did here. But because I wanted to take advantage of the ledge and the ledge mechanics, I decided to do this strategy. Necessarily, you don't have to put Micaiah and Soth or Toronio on the middle ledge. You can put them on the top and just let the enemies come up to the middle. The reason why I don't do that is because then you cannot attack them from the side with a unit like Jill. You can't fly down and attack them from the side because you can't. If there's 2 units here, you can't attack them. It's just how that works. Alright. Yeah, this is seemingly... It seemingly looks like a waste to do this, especially because these units are just going to get healed up, but she's gaining a pretty fair amount of experience points from it. Only thing I'm kind of sad about is the fact that she's not really gaining what I want her to, which is speed. Of course, that's kind of the Micaiah curse. She has a very poor speed growth, and again, that is mostly due to the fact that this game is designed with bonus experience points in mind. Some folks don't like this, and I'm unfortunately one of them, because I find it kind of weird that the design behind people's growth rates has to be balanced around bonus experience points first and foremost, to sort of offset the fact that growth rates are by and large better in Radiant Dawn than they are in most entries. So some units will have some very strange growths. Very high in some areas, but very, very low in others. And that's specifically so that you can cheese the game and get those stats maxed after you max off your very high growth rates, which is probably what I'm going to be doing with Micaiah. She is a very good late game obtainer of bonus experience points because her speed is so low. But her magic, luck, and resistance are such high growths that you are very likely to cap those out sooner than later. And if you do, and when you do, it just makes it easy. It is very unfortunate, though, that the Holy Guard army has physics. They keep healing up that guy down there, and she keeps doing damage. I mean, it's giving her chip experience points, but it's not really much. 2 enemies left. There's not really a way I can even go about doing this either. Nope. I don't even have a longbow, so it's not like I could put Leonardo here and attack. Which would be actually a really good idea. Having a longbow on him for that specific reason. Well, I mean, there's always the chance for a crit, but I swear, 6%, you're just never seeing that in this game. And if you do, it's going to be very fluky. $71 avoid. Likely a lot of these guys have enough hit to reliably hit Micaiah, so I can't even take her. Huh. You know, what I could have done was put Soth here. Brought Micaiah up and let somebody come up here so that he could attack and she could attack in the same turn. Wow, that is something... I'm going to have to remember that for next time. Because this has been kind of an unfortunate experience points gathering situation. And that's... Oh, I was going to say that's the last one, but no, apparently not. The Daeans cannot hit for any good measure half the time. But that's it for this particular fight. We're in position at the top of the cliff, and the Holy Guards are at the bottom, just as we planned.
All right, thank you.
There is no turning back, Micaiah. You have to give the order.
Yes, I know.
General Mayhill has fallen to the claws of the subhumans. General Ike and the Leguz Alliance are headed this way to rescue the Apostle.
Prepare to move to the next phase. Archers, get ready. There's no more time for doubt. What are they doing? What are they pouring down the cliff? No, it's oil. They're going to set us aflame. Apostle, onto my Pegasus. We'll take to the sky. We will protect the Apostle from the archers by becoming her shield. Holy Guards, form up. No, Sigrun. We cannot leave the others here. I will not allow it. Commander, we're ready. Don't let the Apostle escape. Archers, mages, bring down that Pegasus.
Don't move. I see one arrow fly, and the boy gets a quick lesson in falling. Tibarn.
Soth, no, please. All units, cease fire now.
General Ike has reached us. We failed. Micaiah of Dayan, listen to me very, very carefully.
Tell him to let Soth go.
Not a chance. I'm offering you a choice. Surrender now and go home to Dayan, or fight us and die.
We can't. We won't retreat or negotiate, regardless of what you believe. The only choice we have is to fight.
Micaiah, are you insane? Look around. Every single person in your army will die. Do you care that little about them?
Enough. Everyone, stand down.
Apostle?
I've seen enough bloodshed for one day. That's enough. Please, no more.
We'll retreat for now. You'd better do the same, and I mean now. I'm not sure how long I can hold my men back.
But we can't.
Fine. His death is on your hands, then. Sorry, little Soth. Your friend just killed you. Say a quick goodbye.
No, Micaiah. No, Soth. Oh, thank the blanker. Soth.
Take this as a lesson, little Bjork. Next time, there won't be anyone to catch you. General Toronio, I'll ask you one last time. Talk some sense into that girl, all right? She's losing it. We won't pursue you this time. However, we cannot avoid this war. That is all I will say for now. And Ike, I'm sorry for this. What is going on with you people? Mountain Fortress, day in. It suddenly became winter, unless it's just winter in this mountain. What's the situation? It's awful. The Begnion Central Army and the Crimean Royal Knights have almost been completely obliterated. On top of that, the oil that Dayan used to injure the Holy Guard's Pegasi and has all but grounded them. Yeah, I think it's awful fits. Thoughts, everyone? Thoughts. Dayan must answer for this. We attack them immediately.
We can't. If we fought Dayan now, we couldn't possibly take on the Senate's armies. We have to get Dayan to listen to us. Confusion is exactly what Lacane wants. Dayan is merely a pawn in his scheme. But there is one thing I do not understand. Why use such horrible tactics? Oil and fire? What is that girl Micaiah thinking?
Micaiah? The Imperial Army has Micaiah on their side? Raphael, when did you arrive? Just now, with Raisin and Queen Nyla.
Raisin went straight to his sister. We will be here with Leanne in a moment.
Is it all right for the three of you to be here? What about the medallion? The medallion is right here.
We're very near the point where Goldra won't be able to contain its power. If this war goes on much longer, the Dark God will surely awaken.
I like how she suddenly is an expert on this. Dayan Keith. Even though she comes from Hatari, a country far off of Tellius. The other side of Grand Desert, in fact.
Please, please save him. Please save my son. Come save my Peleus, I beg of you.
I found it. This is it. A way to break the blood pact. Thank the gods. I will be able to save my people after all.
Prince Girth, what are you doing out so late? Looking for something?
Oh, hello, Ina. No, I was just looking at the moon. Its reflection on the lake is quite lovely, isn't it?
Yes, quite.
You? How did you get in? How did you fight us? Oh, he's here. My apologies for the long wait. Is the apostle safe? She fled to Crimea, then exposed the Senate's plots to the world. Currently, she leads the apostle's army through Dayan and is preparing to storm the Empire. I see. Very well. It's time for us to make our move. As you wish, my master. Beautiful bonus experience points that basically all but replace the bonus experience points I used on Toronio.
Dayan launches a surprise attack against the Apostle's army, devastating her forces. It is all Apostle Soniki can do to allay her remaining troops' burning desire for revenge. She knows that there is no hope of victory if her weakened forces are divided. However, she cannot move forward while danger follows at her back. This dilemma weighs heavily on the Apostle's troops, crushing their morale. Meanwhile, the Dayan forces pull back to the fastness of Nox Castle. Micaiah, unable to explain her mission to her soldiers, keeps Dayan's army together through sheer force of will.
Chapter 13, Blood Contract. Castle Nox, Dayan. A rebellion in the Empire, is that true? Yes, the Empire has been thrown into chaos since General Zelgius freed Prime Minister Sephiran. They've incited the peasants by asking, who should you believe in, the Senate or the Apostle? And the people have chosen the Apostle, correct? Yes, they're rioting in the capital day and night, demanding answers. The Senate is busy trying to quell the masses. This is great news. If we were to forge an alliance between Dayan and the Apostle supporters in Begnion, that is not a wise choice. But what is a wise choice is my ending of this episode. I want to thank you for joining me. If you like my content, please upvote and follow, or like and subscribe depending on your platform. And while you're at it, have a great and glorious day gaming.